Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. A couple of other notes about this May 6th crisis and thereabouts, right? The attempt by the Anglo-Americans to destroy the euro, which took the form, I think, of the flash crash on May 6th, except it boomeranged, it misfired, and it began dragging down the New York stock market in a way which was also alarming for these financiers. There is now today just released, I don't have it, I haven't read it, I'm just looking at some sketchy accounts of it. The flash crash report from the Commodity Future Trading Commission and the Securities and Exchange Commission has come out, and it's not clear what the allegation is. There were some reports from Reuters yesterday that the firm Waddell and Reed were somehow heavily involved in this as market participants. Let's see what happens with that. The other thing to remember is that historical parallel. Remember, back in May and in the springtime, when we had the Greek crisis, I pointed to the European banking crisis of 1931, 2 years into the previous Great Depression. We had the crisis of the Vienna banking system, the Kreditanstalt of Vienna, blowing up in May of 1934, which then turned into a Eastern European and then a German banking crisis, above all in July of 1931 with the Danat, right, the Darmstädter and National Bank blowing up in Germany, the seizure of all the German banks by the government and the imposition of capital controls, exchange controls, but with the wrong idea, with the idea of propping up these banks per se. And then, of course, in 1931, it was September 21st, 1931, which I urge you to read all about in Surviving the Cataclysm. There's a detailed account of how the bankruptcy of the British pound, September 21st, 1931, was indeed the central world event of the previous World Economic Depression because of the central role of the British pound, the pound-sterling bill of exchange, as being the universal means of financing trade and commerce and all kinds of international financial activity. That blew up when the pound went off the gold standard. That was the end of the world. So ironically, this uncanny parallel is holding up, the sense that Greece led to the blow-up in May. May was the month of the Kreditanstalt, and now it's September, and within about, less than 10 days of that September 21st, 1931 anniversary, you've got Ireland going over the edge, and perhaps they'll be followed now by the Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's attacking these other countries, Spain, Portugal, and going back for a second round on Greece, that this is now coming to pass. What we didn't have was the German banking crisis in the summer. To some extent, that was attempted, but the Germans were able to defend themselves by banning those credit default swaps sold naked and the naked shorts, right, the uncovered shorts. So all of this going on. In this regard, Sarkozy, at the beginning of last week at the United Nations, demanded the Tobin tax, a universal financial transfer tax. And naturally, this is absolutely critical as an issue, but not in the form that Sarkozy wants it, not as a global tax payable to the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank, certainly not, but to be used nationally for economic development and economic recovery, and also then as a multilateral cooperation operation for these huge projects of infrastructure, the Nile Congo, the Ganges Brahmaputra, and so forth, all of them essentially international in scope. What I think you're seeing, you've also got Sarkozy taking a rather hard line against the Israelis. The Israelis have now ended their moratorium, their freeze on new building of settlements. And you had, when Abu Abbas of the Palestinians visited Paris this past week, we had Sarkozy taking an interesting hard line against the Israelis. Now, it's all part of his re-election campaign. Nevertheless, interesting. We know that the whole pedigree of Sarkozy, right, with the CIA family. We've gone through all this. But when you're president of France and you've got those institutions around you, things begin to change. So Sarkozy says to the world public, les colonisations doivent cesser. The building of settlements, colonization, has to end. And you're seeing now Anglo-American press organs normally hostile to Sarkozy, momentarily taking normally favorable, are taking a hostile turn. So something interesting going on there. Now, let's look at the strategic stuff in the larger sense, right? We've got a big context of terror alarms, right? Bin Laden Productions Incorporated, this troupe of actors, I would say unemployed actors from the Cairo and Beirut stage, have been assembled as this troupe of actors and other theater professionals to produce these tapes. And notice the tapes generally come out right before U.S. elections. So here we are, U.S. election about a month away, and lo and behold, a Bin Laden tape. Now, in the tape, he says he's concerned about the humanitarian situation in Pakistan, but all of them now, David Sanger of the New York Times says, well, the important thing is not what he says, but the fact that he says it, that he's there, and it may be a signal that terror attacks should occur. All of this has got to be read within the context of the essays that I put on the website, tarpley.net, in July and August about the obvious preparations for the strike against Iran, which is definitely back in the realm of imminent danger. We've had Napolitano, the Secretary of Homeland Security, going on a big public blitz to talk about these dangers. And then, most dramatic, in the past week, we're told that a German captured in Afghanistan has given detailed but not very specific reports, credible but not imminent reports about a Mumbai-style attack to be started in Britain, France, Germany, and perhaps the United States, with the involvement of alleged Osama bin Laden, again with the operation of that entity that calls itself Osama bin Laden. So looks like preparations are there. We're also told that the link to this, that the U.S. drone offensive of assassinations from the air in Pakistan, which has tremendously increased in the past week, is also linked to this. And as a retaliation, and we'll talk about this in a minute, the Pakistanis have cut the U.S. supply line through the Khyber Pass. Those 250 to 300 trucks per day are stopped at the moment because the U.S. managed to kill some Pakistani Rangers in the process. Back in a minute.